Good morning. Good morning. Hatha yoga for everybody with Jennifer Eubank. Thursdays at today, 9:00, I think probably 9:07. Getting a little late start. Have no fear. Have your props nearby. Let's go ahead and start in a reclining position. Lie back on your mats, preferably without any props, but you could have a blanket under your head and neck, as long as your head and neck are neutral to the rest of your spine. In other words, you don't want your head forward or pitching back. And take a few moments to settle into your reclining position. And as always, take a few nice cleansing breaths, helping you to settle in, transition from what you were just doing to your time now. And take a few moments to assess your surroundings. Beautiful sunny day. And how you fit into your surroundings. And how your insides feel. How does your body feel? And at some point, draw your awareness to your breath. Breathing in and out through your nose to tap into your parasympathetic nervous system to help you feel safe, secure, comforted. Couple more breaths. Notice how your breath is flowing today. I don't know about you, but I'm experiencing lots of blockages in my breathing. You can probably hear it in my voice. And as we focus on our breath and deepen and lengthen and condition that breath, we find we might be able to work through some of those blockages and clear those blockages out with our own innate healing abilities. Not always. A little longer. And then let's go into starfish pose. Starfish pose. Legs are extended out in front of you. And then bring the feet out wide, maybe corner width, something like that. And when you feel situated on the bottom half, Bring your arms into it, out to the sides, T position to begin with. You could always bring your arms up higher at some point, but I like to keep mine shoulder height so it doesn't strain the shoulders. You decide. Hands can be facing either the ceiling or the floor. And take a few moments to settle into your position and try to establish a sense of balance between the left side, the right side, the left leg, the right leg, the left arm and shoulder girdle, and the right arm and shoulder girdle, etc., etc., down to maybe even the feet and toes. You work out some sense of symmetry here. I'm going to lift back up. And we'll stay in our starfish for a little bit more time. And as we continue to delve into the physicality of this position, see if you can add a balanced breath to the balanced physique. In other words, the inhale lasts as long as the exhale. All again done through the nose. Count the beats of the inhale and match it up by counting the beats of the exhale. And as you continue, you can always add beats or take away. You can lengthen the time of each beat. Lengthen the time of each half. And we are continuing our Yamas exploration, a more ethical approach to our yoga practice. Our first Yama was Ahimsa, non-harming. Last week was Satya, which is truthfulness, integrity. This week is Asteya, non-stealing. Non-stealing. And this encompasses not just stealing physical things from someone, but also stealing less tangible things like time, airtime. Like if you're constantly interrupting someone, not letting them have their say, not letting them finish their sentences, that's stealing. Being habitually late for things, making people wait is stealing. Always having to have the spotlight in a room, stealing the attention, me. That's a form of not practicing Asteya. Asteya gives us a chance to examine how much we take from the world and help us ensure that we're giving back equally, maybe even giving more than what we're taking. So we find a sense of balance between our give and take, which is why I asked you to start in this balanced physical position with some balanced breath. For as we know in our yoga, when we establish these ideas physically, they tend to follow suit energetically, emotionally, mindfully. even intellectually. So let's go 6 more breaths in our star pose, reclining starfish. Balanced breath. So if you kind of wavered from that balanced breath, return to it. Here's a lovely quote for you to consider these last couple of breaths, taken from Deborah Adele's book, The Yamas and the Niyamas, one of my resources. I love this book. When we are engaged in the joy and challenge of building ourselves, we automatically serve the world rather than steal from it. When we are engaged in the joy and challenge of building ourselves, you're building yourselves right now. We automatically serve the world rather than steal from it. Because we become content with what we have. We already have what we need right here, right now. So come back to more natural breath as you're ready and come out of the pose. Start to bring your arms a little closer in and your legs closer together. Take a couple of breaths, noticing the effects of that starfish pose. I really love that pose. It opens up the shoulders and the hips and helps you lengthen that spine. And let's follow up with some four-legged twists, or excuse me, four-legged wipers. So bend the knees, feet on the floor again, arms by the sides. They could be close or wide. You decide. It might change when we start the movement. Put your right foot on your left knee, and then start bringing that leg structure intact back and forth, left to right. Coordinate it with the breath. Balance the movement. So going to one side lasts the same amount of time as the other side. Add the head. Start first in the same direction. And eventually go in the opposite direction with the head and the knees. We've already gotten pretty practiced at balancing the breath, and that can help us balance the movement. And even though we're in a constant asymmetrical shape, there's a sense of balance within that asymmetry. Remember which side you started on and end on the other. Do your best. Come back to center. Keep the foot there for a breath or two. Let the body settle. Then bring the foot down. And again, take a breath or two. Let the body settle. This helps you maintain a sense of balance, these quiet little moments in our transitional times. Now we'll go to the other side. Other foot comes up on the knee. You know, you might want to change where the foot on the floor is. And then as you're ready, start with just the leg structure, adding the breath and the head. Eventually going in opposite direction with the head and the knees. And we'll try to make sure that we do the same amount of twists of wipers with this foot up on the knee as we did on the other side, so that we can maintain balance within our challenges and efforts, so we don't create imbalances, say in our hips or our knees or our shoulders. We tend to favor one side over the other, and that can bring a sense of imbalance. Remember what side you started on, and on the opposite. Take your time back to the center, a breath or two in each transitional stage. And let's take a few more breaths, noticing how we feel. And then let's do a static twist on each side. So bring the knees to one side. Feel free to prop it up with some blocks, blankets, and eventually look in the opposite direction and take a few breaths to balance out the arms and balance out your asymmetry, and then balance out that breath. And we'll take 5 here. And notice that sense of balance within your imbalance. I love twists. Come back to the center bit by bit. Take a couple of breaths in the middle. Settle back in to a truly balanced position before you go to the other side. Build it with care, attentiveness, gradually settling in and taking 5 balanced breaths here. And as you're ready, come on back, couple of breaths in the center, and then we'll sit up. And let's find a nice balanced seated mountain position. Bring the hands out to the sides, tent pulling your fingers, and line up the fingers with the sits bones. Root into the floor, root into the body. Find a sense of stability, but also some softness in the shoulders. Balance out that strength with flexibility. Let's go 3 more breaths, and let's make them nice and balanced breaths. And as you're ready, let's do a crescent moon. Inhale the arms up. Exhale the right hand down. Inhale, extend and reach. Exhale, slowly make your way into a crescent moon. And we'll take 3 balanced breaths here. Balance your inhales with the length of the exhales and see how that might affect your crescent moon. Take your time with it. Try to reach with your torso rather than the arms so you're not straining your shoulder, keeping that shoulder soft. And after those 3, maybe you took 4 balanced breaths. You could even take 5. We can, as you're ready, use an inhale to come back, soften down, and we'll do the other side. Easing into the shape and then balancing those 3 breaths. Come on back with the breath as you're ready. And once you're back, take 3 breaths here. Tent pulled fingers, balanced triangular shape, rooting and rising, being stable and strong, but soft. And as you finish those 3 breaths, let's go into staff pose, stretching the legs out, shaking them out, maybe tapping them out. And then as you're ready, engage the leg muscles, engage the torso muscles, integrate those 2 forces. Nice, strong Dandasana, core building pose. And let's add Vyana Vayu Mudra. Pick up your hands and they're facing away. The palms are facing away. Take the tips of the thumb and the ring finger and touch them on the left, and on the right, the tips of the thumb and the middle finger. So thumb and middle on the right, thumb and ring on the left. Look at the balanced, imbalanced hand structure, your hand mudra. Put the hands on. Let's actually put them out to the sides. Actually, let's do it back on the legs. I think that makes a little more sense. Three balanced breaths here. We can release our Vyana Vayu Mudra, and let's come into a table pose. And actually, let's, you might want to have okay, yeah, Kitty's not here today, so I don't think we have any knee issues. We're going to spend some time on our hands and knees. One of my favorite ways to explore the idea of balance is bird dogs. bird dogs. We haven't done these in a while, but we have done them before. First things first, you want to start with a nice stable table. So make sure there's balance. Make sure the knees are as far as apart as the hands are, for instance. A lot of folks have their knees closer than their hands. Make sure you've got balance there, and the shoulders are right over your wrists. Hips are right over your knees. And engage the leg, the glute muscles, draw your belly, and start to engage your core muscles in your torso. And when you're ready, inhale, lift one leg up, straight up, hip height, and point the toes towards the floor and keep looking at the floor. And then when you're ready, lift the opposite arm, also facing down with that hand, and make a nice long line from that outstretched hand to the outstretched opposite foot. Even though they're on opposite sides, make it so that there's one seemingly long line. And when you're ready, exhale things back down into your table and take a couple of breaths, recovering, because that was a lot of time spent there. And when you're ready, we'll do the other side. So you want to start with a good foundation, engage your muscles before you even start the movement. And make sure you're not looking at the wall in front of you. You're looking at the floor beneath you. Use an inhale to pick up the limbs. Some people pick up the limbs at the same time. I like to do one and then the other. You decide what works better for you. Make sure you minimize the arch in your low back. Knee and toes of lifted leg are pointing to the floor so that your hips are even. You're not lifting or opening up one hip over the other. You want to find balance in those hips. And anytime you need to take a rest, you could always sit back on your hands and shake out your wrists. And let's see if we can do about 5 of these. No, let's do 6. We'll find a good balanced number. Okay. We're all at different paces. As I start to get more comfortable, I start to lift both limbs at the same time. The first one I lift one at a time. And then as I start to really tap into those core muscles and my sense of strength, stability, stamina, all those things associated with our solar power. Take your time and do your best to even things out. Is your hand as high as your shoulder? Is your shoulder or are they as high as your legs? So you don't want the leg down and the arm up. You want them equal height. Do your best. And do your best to equal the weight in the knee that's on the floor and the hand that's on the floor, so that you're not leaning to one side more than the other, so that you're tapping into your center of gravity, your central power, your spine, your solar plexus, just above the belly button. Remember that from last semester? This is a lot of solar plexus power. So I'll give you a couple more moments to finish your bird dogs. Your legs, your glutes, your core muscles and the torso are all working in tandem. Your arm muscles too. I tend to leave them out, but they're working. And as you finish your 6 bird dogs, Take a couple of breaths in your table so that you're back down, but you still have some sense of structure and kind of shake it out. And let's do a nice child's pose. See if you can balance out the two halves of the body. Balance your sense of stability with your sense of ease. Balance the breath. One more breath. When you're ready, use an inhale to lift you up into your table. And let's do some dogs for about 20 or 30 breaths, and then we'll eventually turn our dogs into forward folds and make our way up from there. So take your time lifting up into your first dog. And as always, ease into it, bringing some movement into it bit by bit. One of the goals of our down dog is to find balance between the two sides of the body. So as you walk your dog, make sure your hips are balanced. When you walk your dog, you bend one knee and then the other. And sometimes I see folks collapsing into the hip of the leg that's bending. And you don't want to do that. You want to keep those hips level and even as you walk your dog. And that way you're truly giving your legs a chance to lengthen and strengthen, and you're not creating wear and tear on your joints, and you're not creating imbalances within your body. When you come down in your table or down from your dog, make sure you land both knees at the same time. Land both hips at the same time when you come into your table, your child's. We come up evenly, so we go down evenly. We lift both legs when we come up into our dog. We lower both legs. And feel free to do some three-legged dogs. Just make sure you do it on each side. My energy levels will not support that today. My allergies are really tapping into my breath, which affects my energy levels. So I am pacing myself. You do the same. Let's think about making our way from a dog to a forward fold. So if you're down in a child's pose, please, no rush. If you want to go down and take a quick child's rest, you could do that. Though do try to be efficient and join us at some point back into a dog. And we're turning our dog into our forward fold. And same thing here, we want to keep the body balanced in our forward fold. Energies in the feet usually take care of the energies further up those feet. So find those three triangles and root into them evenly. You have the option of lifting into a half forward fold. As you do that, though, try to make sure you're not curving, that you're strengthening your muscles to help you lengthen your spine. And at some point, we want to lift up by hinging at the hips using those strong leg and glute muscles in tandem with those upper muscles to come up. And then once you're up, get the lay of the land. Take a few breaths. And start to pick the feet up. Fix your clothes, your hair. Take your time doing all these things. Clear out your mat. So today, thoughts for our balance pose. We've been doing star poses the last few weeks and trees, keeping it simple. This week, I want to work towards an eagle pose, which is a little bit more challenging than. Actually, you know what? I think I've just changed my mind. Organic yoga. Let's make, since we did bird dogs, let's do a warrior sequence. Warrior one, warrior two. We'll play around with those two shapes, and then we'll turn it into a supported warrior three. So we need blocks for that. We'll start at one end of the mat, at the top end of the mat, and let's start with the right. So I'm going to face this way so that when I open out to a warrior two, I can face you. And I'm going to show you real briefly. We'll do a warrior one. We'll do some work there. We'll do a warrior two. We'll do some work there. And then from our warrior two, we'll turn it into our supported warrior three. So when we do that, we turn to face those blocks again, that first position, and we start to windmill the arms down. And as we bring the hands down, we lift that back leg up. And we try to keep the leg nice and level with the hips, just like we did in our bird dog. So we don't want that knee to turn out. We want the knee and the toes facing the floor again. And then after some time in that warrior three, we'll bring the foot down, we'll land in our forward fold, and we'll rise back up, probably do a chair, something like that. Okay, so just want to make sure you understood turning the warrior two into that supported warrior three. So start at the top of your mat with your blocks by your feet. Find a nice mountain pose. Root the feet evenly, draw that energy up the legs, up through the torso, all the way up through the crown of your head. And let's start with a nice balancing chair pose. Breathe your way into your chair pose. And after we're in our chair, let's take 2 balanced breaths. Balancing the inhale with the exhale. This is the only time we're going to do that in this sequence. And the very beginning and end, keeping it simple. And when you're ready, use an inhale to come up. And let's swan dive down to a forward fold. Stay there for 1 breath. Come on back up as you're ready with that breath. Inhaling up, exhaling your hands in front of your heart, then down by the sides. Next inhale, make your way into your warrior one. Bit by bit, step by step. And after you've got a good, strong warrior one, let's open out the chest and the upper back and go into cactus arms. And try to even out the feet and the legs so there's balance in your imbalance. Let's do a few flies, bringing the arms in and out. Let's do 6. Feet equally rooted, soft shoulders, ending in your cactus arms. Opening out to your warrior two as you're ready. And once you've stabilized your warrior two, let's do 6 bows. Bring that arm back and forth. Opening up that back shoulder. Opening up that back chest. Ending with your warrior two arms. Make sure they're balanced so that you're not doing something like this. You'll only be facing the front. You're facing the long side with your mat. Let's do a sun. And let's stay in our sun for a few breaths. Keep it static. Come back to your warrior two as you're ready. Keep the feet equally rooted as you bring those arms back down. And after another breath or two, we'll make our way. So arms are shoulder height in warrior two. Penny, shoulder height. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to get ready for that transition to our supported variation of warrior three. So when you're ready, turn to face the front, windmill the arms, pivot that back foot, and start to lift that back foot as you bring the arms and hands down, landing in your supported warrior three. Now, if you like, you could lift the opposite arm of that leg that's lifted, like we did in our warrior three. Excuse me, our bird dog. I've got an interference on that with this plant. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. And when you're ready, you can bring that leg down and land in a forward fold. And take a couple of breaths in your forward fold. Maybe bend the knees a little bit. And when you're ready, use an inhale to lift back up, and we'll land in another chair. And we'll spend 3 breaths in our chair. And let's see if we can even the breath. And use an inhale to make your way back out. Exhale the arms down. Let's take 3 breaths here. Even those breaths. And then we'll do the other side. So I'm going to turn to the other end so that I open out to see you. Okay. So I'm going to move just a little bit here. Yeah. We start in a mountain. We're going to start then with a chair. Now we're going to do the left side. So when you're ready, from that strong mountain, make your way into a chair pose and take 3 balanced breaths in your chair on this side. On this side, it's the same thing. I'm the only one who moved. Keep the belly drawn in, the feet equally rooted. Strength and flexibility. When you finish the 3 breaths, come on back out. Let's make our way into a forward fold. And we'll spend 1 breath once we're in the forward fold. Just one, releasing, letting go. And then we'll come back up. Hands in front of the heart eventually. And we'll use our breath to start the left side, warrior one. Bit by bit, stabilize that warrior one. Feet are equally rooted. So that back leg is good and strong, just as strong as the front, supporting you to come into cactus arms as you're ready. And then let's do 6 flies. Even breath, even movements. You don't need to count the number of beats, that's too much, but we'll practice it, keeping it even. And then open out to your warrior two as you're ready. And take your time settling in and make sure that back arm is the same height as the front arm. Sometimes I see this. You want to keep them even. And we can start with that bowing action to help us with that idea. To bring that space and open out our chest to the long side of the mat, even though our front arm is pointing towards that short side. We'll eventually land in those still warrior two arms. And then we'll use the breath to go into our sun, feet equally rooted so we're not collapsing on that back leg as we build our curve. Come back to your warrior two as you're ready. And let's stay here for a breath or two, getting our bodies organized for that next change. You can even kind of turn to face the front, which is what you're going to turn towards. That can help. Try to lift the back leg up at the same rate as the arms come down. Once you're in your position, make sure those blocks are right under your shoulders. You might have to move the blocks, shift your body. You could play around with lifting the opposite arm. One long line from the hand to the foot. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. And we'll eventually land in a forward fold. And let's stay in our forward fold for a few extra breaths. Let's all lift up into a half forward fold. And make for a nice long back, nice long spine, so you're not hunched over. You got a nice long spine from tailbone all the way out through the crown of the neck, or the crown of the head. And when you're ready to come up, feel free to bend the knees as you press the feet into the floor. We'll make our way into another chair, and we'll spend 3 balanced breaths in our chairs. You could go into cactus arms if that feels better for you. And when you finish your 3 breaths, we'll use the breath to come back to our mountain pose bit by bit. And it'll stay here for 3 breaths, and do your best to stay still, carrying that flow into your mountain, feeling it both absorb and fade away at the same time. So you're taking something from that experience, but you're also letting part of it go. There's that give and take. Okay, so that was a nice balance, nice little change. I think we actually did that a couple of weeks ago. All right, it's time to make our way back down. Let's sit back down. Let's meet in a butterfly pose. Knees bent, soles of feet together. Come down with everything you need for Shavasana. Maybe sit upon a blanket. Take your time building your pose. Finding balance within the body, left half, right half, bottom, top, front, back. Lots of ways to balance out the body physically. And then how about we add that Vyana Vayu mudra, the tips of the thumbs and the ring finger on the left, and the tips of the thumb and the middle finger on the right. And look at your hands. They're different, but they're the same. And then let's have them facing up as we put them on our knees. I didn't really direct that last time. Let's have them facing towards us, the ceiling. So you'll feel nice outward rotation in your shoulders and an openness in your chest, making it easier for you to sit nice and tall. And then let's take 3 balanced breaths here. Notice how the stability and strength of your pose affects the opposite elements the softness, the lightness of your body. And let's release that mudra. And let's do a fold from our butterfly. So you might want to bring the feet a little further out. And remember, the goal is to bring the belly towards the legs, not the shoulders towards the knees or the head towards the feet, because that compels one to curve the spine. See if you can make for a nice neutral spine and simply hinge at the hips. That's all you're doing. You're hinging at the hips. And as you hinge at the hips, the body comes closer to the legs. So we're taking the complexities out of our mental pathways and keeping it really simple with our physical pathways, if that makes sense. Take your time. And as you continue to hinge at the hips, I mean, you may be where you want to go. You might be still going. You can change where the hands are. Try to keep the head lifted so you can feel that nice stretch in your lower back. And when you're ready to lower the head, go for it. And once you've lowered the head and settled into your pose, let's take 3 balanced breaths. When you're ready, press into the floor. Engage leg, glute, and core muscles and hinge at the hips to bring the torso back up, just like we do when we're standing. We're not rolling up, we're hinging up. Landing back in our butterfly, let's bring our Vyana Vayu Mudra back into it. Tips of thumb and ring finger on the left, tips of thumb and middle finger on the right. And this time, let's face them down. Thumb and ring on left, thumb and middle on right. 3 balanced breaths here. Let's release that mudra, extend the legs out, shake them out, tap them out. And we'll get ready for the last part of our practice. We'll keep it simple. Let's do some bridge building, and then we'll finish with a couple more of those twists like we did in the very beginning, and we'll hold them for some time. So when you're ready, go ahead and lie back on your back, knees bent, feet on the floor. You could always have a blanket that spans your entire torso from your shoulders to your hips. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. Your head could be on the blanket or it could be hanging off, or no blanket at all. You decide. And once you've been in your 2-legged table for a couple breaths, make sure you've got those good mountain lines, shoulders in line with your hips, your knees, your ankles. So things are good and ordered. And that way you can focus on using the midline muscles in both the torso and the legs too. You can squeeze your leg bones, squeeze your spine to lift your torso, your hips, your ribs, your heart. Go as high as you like, stay as long as you like. When you're ready to come down one vertebra at a time. Make sure the feet are equally rooted and the feet and the knees are the same distance apart for this entire exercise. So if your knees cave in or cave out, that is keeping your knees unsafe. You want to keep them, it's destabilizing those knees. Squeeze the legs, squeeze the glutes. Draw the belly in, lift the heart, squeeze your ribs, squeeze your arms, press the arms into the floor. Even press your head into the floor. Whole body helps build, sustain, and dismantle. And after you come down, after each bridge, please try to stay still in your two-legged table for at least 2 breaths. Avoid any movement after you're all the way down. And then you could do a movement if you still need the desire or feel the desire, but you might find that that stillness took care of any fidgeting needs. You know, fidgeting just takes more of our energy. Keeping things slow and steady is a much more reasonable pace, one that's harnessed and not going all hog wild. You know, sometimes we just give way too much energy to things, and that affects our bodies. It affects people around us. It can affect a room. You know, have you ever puffed into a room all stressed out and just, you know, all of a sudden all the attention comes to you? That's Asteya. That's not practicing Asteya. You're stealing. Keep that energy bridled. Let's do one more bridge. I'll give you time to do one more. Slow and steady and controlled descent. We'll stay in our two-legged table for a couple of breaths and absorb and fade the effects of that movement. And then we'll do a twist on either side, a static twist. We'll bring the knees to one side, eventually the head, and then we'll spend 3 balanced breaths in our twist. Inhales lasting the same as the exhales. Come on back when you're ready. Take a breath or two in the center to absorb and fade, absorb and let go. Go to the other side bit by bit. And once you're there, 3 balanced breaths here. Bit by bit, come back to the center, and we'll spend a couple of breaths in our two-legged table. And then when you're ready, draw your belly in, hug your knees into your chest. A little Apanasana action. And at this point, let's keep things balanced and simple and quiet. So you decide if you want the knees and feet close or far apart. You've got time to play around with that. And neither keep things still or rock from side to side. You have time for both. Come back to stillness, to the center. And let's do some hip circles. Go round and round, holding on to the legs. Try not to cross the ankles. Couple more. Pause and switch directions. Couple more. Belly drawn in so you don't strain that low back. Coming back to a still Apanasana. Maybe you can hug the knees a little deeper into the chest. Maybe. Soften your shoulders. Let's take 3 balanced breaths here. And to come back down, make sure the belly is drawn in before you bring those legs down. Bent legs back down. Take a breath or two in your two-legged table. Adjust to that transition. And then you can go ahead and extend the legs out, maybe kind of wriggle them out, maybe wriggle the whole body, eventually settling in and releasing into the weight and the shape of the body, releasing into the earth. And at this point, don't worry about any kind of balance or symmetry within your body. Just let all of that go. Let your body land the way it lands. I'm going to lift back up, but you stay right where you are. And soften and quiet your breath. Asteya, when practiced, gives us a chance to live in fairness. We can apply it to how we interact with others, how we interact at various events, and how we interact with the earth. Recycling is a great way to practice Asteya. Conserving your energy, pacing yourselves. Another wonderful way to practice Asteya. Then you will benefit the most from these ideas. Because in practicing fairness, equanimity within our minds, peace and harmony ensue. As you're ready, slowly begin to deepen your inhales and lengthen your exhales. And don't worry about balanced breath at this point. At this point, I want you to just start to stir up the energy and stir up movements bit by bit, slowly but surely, returning to your two-legged table. And, coming out of these poses slowly but surely, bit by bit, spending a couple of breaths in each transitional stage allows you to conserve your energy, and it gives you a chance to experience each iteration. And remember, you can steal from yourself. Take your time. We'll meet in whatever seated position feels right, with whatever props feel right. All I ask is that you maintain balance within your physique. Both legs are doing more or less the same thing, as is the rest of your body. And one more mudra. This mudra cultivates our sense of Asteya, balance and fairness, giving as much as we receive. And it's very simple. We hold our hands out, face up, the fingers slightly curved, as if, and kind of hold them out. Arms on the body, hands reaching out, as if you're giving rather than taking. And soften your shoulders. And let's take 3 more breaths, holding our Hasta Fula Mudra. You have everything you need. So much that you have much to offer. Isa Mudra, Anjali Mudra, hands in front of your hearts. May you be safe, happy, and free from suffering. Namaste. And I will turn off the recording. Feel free if you need to leave, please just go ahead and bump out. Thank you. See you next week.